Welcome to Ticker Talk. Today's guest, Alex Vynokur, the founder and CEO of BetaShares.
Australian investors should have access to the world of opportunities. In order to have access to those wealth creation opportunities, we need to turn our domestic market into a supermarket of global opportunities.
A guy that arrived in Australia at the age of 16 and couldn't speak a word of English.
I had trouble, distinguishing between and basically.
A person who has a really interesting story that goes beyond BetaShares.
What makes a great lawyer is to be a person that is able to take instructions from clients and turn these instructions into reality. I was probably too opinionated to do it for the rest of my life, basically.
So we look forward to chatting to Alex and hearing the Alex Vynokur story. Alex, great to have you here. Always great to catch up. I think we want to start at the very beginning. You've got one of the most interesting stories, I think, in financial markets. Tell us a little bit about your childhood and your early beginnings and where life started.
Well, firstly, thank you for inviting me. I'm delighted to be here with you. Well, my childhood is going to take us back to the other side of the world, back to Soviet Ukraine, where I was born in late 70s. Really in the days of Brezhnev. Now we're really going back.
Everyone's just scrambled for the
Wikipedia.
Wikipedia.
Target audience is pulling out Wikipedia right now.
Yes, exactly, exactly. Look, late 70s Soviet Union. It was really the beginning of the end in some ways. There was a quick succession of leaders, basically, which eventually ended up in Gorbachev. And ended up in the collapse, of the Soviet Union, which I've had the pleasure of living through. But look, my childhood was a very happy childhood, even though growing up, of course, in Soviet Union, Soviet Ukraine was not easy. There's a lot of challenges, with the system. There was a lot of challenges, with just getting the basic things that we today take for granted. But I was surrounded by love from my family. I had very close friends that I grew up with, and my childhood was a really happy time, really happy time.
And that must have been so important then when you came to Australia, and as you've said, many times, you couldn't speak a word of English.
No.
So foreign country, foreign language.
Yes.
Having the love of the family and being close to your parents and siblings. You've got siblings?
Yeah, I've got a younger brother. Yeah.
So that must have been critical in those early days. Do you remember what was the first word you heard then when you arrived in Australia? Given that English wasn't you weren't speaking much of it then. Do you remember what the first word you heard was? It wasn't ETFs, I'm sure.
Yes, definitely not. Look, as I think back, definitely the beach was very close. I mean, we settled in Bondi, like a lot of kind of Soviet immigrants. Back in the day. So we arrived in Australia in 1994. I had trouble, distinguishing between bitch and beach, basically.
They're important distinctions to work out.
Yes, that's right. It all sounded the same to me at the time, I can tell you that. Hopefully that doesn't get edited, basically, from your editors. But that was an example of the hill that I had to climb, basically, to be socially accepted, at least with my basic English. I'm still learning.
Another story I remember you telling me, which I think is a beautiful story, is the first time your family went into a Woolworths and your confusion as to.
It was astonishment. Astonishment is the word.
Yeah.
I'm glad you bring it up. We were just blown away. I mean, and this is like, honestly, we could not believe that you can get the choice of everything.
Yeah.
The choice of everything. And it's a reality that in my childhood, I would have to get up, with my parents or my grandparents, and would go to a shop to buy bread in the morning, like early in the morning. And there was only one type that was available at best, basically. And if you show up late, if you show up like at 7:30 a.m., sometimes it just runs out and you don't get it basically anymore. Like there's nowhere else. So for me, and for us, like coming to Australia and going to Woolies and seeing this like wild selection of everything, including like 20 brands of bread and 5 brands of yogurt, or like 25 brands. It was astonishing.
The abundance.
Abundance,
of it all.
And plus there were all these things that I've never seen in my life before. Like I was almost 16 when we arrived. I was 15 and a half. I mean, I've never seen an avocado in my life. I've never seen a broccoli in my life. It was just crazy. It was just wild, basically. And in many ways, we almost like started from the beginning.
There's a wonder in that, isn't there? That what you saw then on the shelves in the supermarket, there was a wonder.
Yeah, you're like a child. You're like a
broccoli.
child. Yeah, absolutely. These are like new, completely new sensation and experience.
Because you've spoken about how important naivety was, and perhaps a flip side of naivety is not ignorance or not being prepared. It's an innocence, exactly.
Yeah,
it's a wonder about things.
Wonder, yeah.
So that was important when you were selecting your vegetables
Yes.
in Woolworths.
Yes.
But also as you started your career, that the things you didn't know, so that wonderful naivety, that innocence, that preparedness just to take a chance. How important
blissful
was that?
ignorance. 100%. I could not agree with you more.
I'm agreeing with you.
No. But look, I think it was really important. Like, I mean, I think about it now. I had no idea what I want to do in life. I mean, I had an inkling that doing something entrepreneurial, being involved in building something, A, would be fun, B, would be the opposite of what I, could have been able to do, could ever be given a chance, basically, in the Soviet system. I mean, I grew up, as I mentioned, in a very close and loving family environment. My grandfather, who lost both of his parents basically when he was 11 years old, when the war just started in Ukraine. I mean, he went through the whole war on his own, and he ended up in Siberia. He had a very, very tough childhood. He was somebody that I was very, very close to. And he always had lots of ideas, I would say quite entrepreneurial ideas. But of course, in the Soviet system, there was no ability to turn any entrepreneurial thoughts into reality. In fact, you'd end up back in Siberia, basically, if you did something like that. Yeah. But as I was growing up, I definitely remember wondering, why is it not allowed? Why can't you, sort of create things, basically? Yeah. Why everything is owned and dictated by the state. And Australia was the complete opposite, basically. So when I got to Australia, I mean, I finished school. I was very fortunate to be accepted into university. I graduated from university. And of course, I had really no idea what the rest of my life is going to look like, what the future is going to look like. And that wonder, basically, and that, again, in a way, a bit of blissful ignorance, basically, was really helpful because I was just really following my instinct. I had nobody to really give me advice. We had some family members, but like nobody here had ever, in my family, had ever graduated from university in Australia. We didn't know what sort of career paths, career choices would be. I mean, my parents are educated. I mean, they're both university educated in the Soviet Union, but obviously a totally different system, different life. So we kind of had to figure it out step by step, but not being weighed down by any particular, direction was definitely very helpful.
You had no reason to say, "Oh no, I won't do that."
Yeah, I was up for anything. Up for anything. Yeah.
You studied law.
Yes.
And I mean, it's again, you started with no English.
Yeah.
And then you finished top of the state in HSC, which is pretty remarkable in 2 years. And then you got into Sydney Uni. Was it Sydney Uni?
UNSW, University of New
sorry.
South Wales.
And you studied law?
I did, yes. So I studied a combined degree, a commerce and law degree, and I majored in finance. It was very helpful. First of all, it was helpful because it was a 5-year degree, and I finished it a little bit earlier, but it still gave me time to actually learn more about Australia, basically, because I was in university from 1997, having arrived in 1994. And it was just an amazing experience, really amazing experience. Yeah, so I studied law, I studied finance. gave me an opportunity to form, friendships, learn more about the country. I fell in love with, with NRL. I was following. That's actually one of the things that really helped me.
Yes.
I got into NRL. I got into cricket, and those were like cracking days for Australian cricket team.
Yes.
We had like Mark Taylor and the crew. It was really a lot of fun. So
Which NRL team do you? Now remember,
Canberra Raiders.
Your future in this podcast hangs on the team that you.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you. Because I was such a late arrival,
Yes.
and I did not have the childhood upbringing, basically, either with the Sydney Roosters or any of the other teams.
Good.
I kind of felt going for the team from the capital city is going to be the thing to do, basically. So that was my logic.
You were strategic from an early age, weren't you?
Yeah. And as it happens, I mean, Canberra also had a phenomenal team.
Yes.
I don't know if you guys follow NRL, but that was Mal Meninga and Brett Mullins and Ricky Stewart. There was some absolute legends of the sport, basically.
Yes, well, my team beat them in the 1987 grand final. But I take your point, Alex.
I was oblivious, in 1987 about NRL. I can tell you that.
You've said something about this transition from law,
Yes.
although you did study commerce and finance.
Yes.
And then moving into finance exclusively.
Yes.
And you said, I think, tongue-in-cheek, that you realised at one point that you were better at giving instructions than taking them.
Yes.
But so what's the real reason, though? Why isn't there a big global law firm called Vynokur and Vinegar?
Yes.
So why the move from the
Vynokur
law?
and Associates. That's right. Listen, it's a great question. I was very fortunate after graduating to have had a chance to work for Baker McKenzie. So Baker McKenzie at the time, and I think it still may be the case, but certainly at the time I graduated, was the largest law firm in the world. And for somebody like me, it was wow. Like, I can't believe they actually want me. And of course, I did my best at university, and I think I was a decent student. But it was such an amazing opportunity. And I learned a hell of a lot about myself in my 12 months or so that I was with Baker McKenzie. What I've learned, number one, is that, the business of law and what makes a great lawyer is to be a person that is able to take instructions from clients and turn these instructions into reality, basically. That was number one. And I definitely figured it out reasonably early that I was probably too opinionated to do it for the rest of my life, basically. I mean, that's, genuinely a thought had definitely occurred to me very strongly in that period of time. And my boss, my partner that I was working for, had reminded me on a number of occasions that I'm way too opinionated. That's number one. And number two, and this is the flip side of this large global organization. And again, Baker's is like as good as it gets from my perspective, and I'm a huge fan to this day. But when you are operating in a large global organization, there's a lot of hierarchy, basically.
Yeah.
And as I was sitting at my desk for 18 hours a day, on average, basically, I realized that my path into the future, if I stick it out as a lawyer, whether at that firm or any other firm, is effectively it's almost predetermined for you. You can sit here today and you know what the next 10, 20 years plus of your life are going to look like. And I did not feel that that's a path for me, basically. I have always been a huge believer in meritocracy and always felt that, sort of lockstep progress is not necessarily, is not necessarily for me, basically. I love, meritocracy. I love, when hard work gets rewarded, when people are judged by their results, not just judged by their tenure, basically, in a particular job.
Well, but you've got a great commitment to service. But why didn't you move into nursing or school teaching? What specifically drew you into finance? Was it the background you did have at study, or you'd always been interested in numbers? And
I was very interested in numbers. I was definitely very interested in numbers.
You are a loss to nursing, by the way.
Yeah. Probably I'm a blessing, that I haven't ended up there.
Well, you'd be telling the doctors how to.
Yes. Exactly. Look, it's a good question. Part of it is just luck. I have met my future boss whilst working at Baker McKenzie. We met on a transaction that we were advising on, and we just clicked, and that ended up being the path. So yes, I had a genuine interest in the world of finance, in the world of investing, and serendipity and luck really became the catalyst. I was going to leave the world of legal practice regardless, but luck definitely plays a very significant role, and certainly played a very significant role in my life to this day.
I agree on that, and we might touch on a bit more on that. But if we just talk about influences in your life, and to the extent you're prepared to name names, you've had some amazing mentors. Your partner at Baker McKenzie,
yes,
and a couple of your bosses in the finance world. Do you want to talk about them at all, or by name or not, and the influence they've had in your life?
Well, look, I would still say that other than my parents and my grandfather in particular,
yes,
his name was Alex Vynokur. He definitely would be probably the biggest influence.
And did he come to Australia with the rest of the family?
He did. He came a little bit after us. He did come to Australia with my grandmother. My grandmother was in the ghetto basically, and she survived, the war. And they both, I was just, that's of course how I came about basically, but just incredible story of survival and resilience, really against the odds, So that's my grandparents on my father's side. On my mother's side, I haven't met either of my grandparents.
So your grandfather in particular was a key influence.
Yes, absolutely. And for him, a problem was not a word in his vocabulary. Basically, a problem was there to be overcome. It was never something that would stop you from achieving whatever it is that you set out to achieve. He just had the mindset of problems are there to be overcome, and it's just part of life, basically. And that definitely stayed with me, and I'm obviously now passing on, trying to pass on those lessons to my children.
Well, I think you talk about meritocracy whenever we've had a business dealing with BetaShares. It's amazing in my role, in my previous role, my current role, the organisations you deal with, and most big companies are usually find pathways to say no quickly. And I've always found BetaShares, and if it's not just dealing with you, there's a pathway. Find an opportunity, exploit that, and that's obviously something you've espoused culturally in your work life successfully, I'd say.
Yeah. No, thank you for saying that. And look, I'm just again, this is the way I was brought up. I always believe that you have to treat people firstly the way you want to be treated yourself. Yep. A lot of people say that. A lot of people live that. Not everybody, lives that. For me, the world of business is fascinating. Again, we talked about like the wonder, basically. It is fascinating. I love, obviously it's now 15 years since I started the company. We had a very small team, on day one. And, I'm still learning. I've learned so much over the last 15 years. I love learning, and I'm still learning a lot. And that will never stop. It's just part of who I am, basically. But the other part of who I am is to really always do the right thing by people. I think it's really crucial, and that's really translated into what BetaShares is.
Yep.
We are a team of people that are ambitious. We are driven. We love innovation. We love learning new things. We don't mind trying things that might not succeed. I think if you're in the business of innovation, it's almost by definition that you're doing things that have not been done before. And if things have not been done before, there is a non-trivial chance that, whatever it is that you're trying to do is not going to succeed. And having that open mind, having that ability to get on with it, basically, and move on, I think is really crucial. But what's really, really important is to treat people well. That for me, is as important, if not more important, than what we're building. So what I often say to my colleagues and a lot of my friends is that I want to be proud of not only the business that we're building, but also how we're building that business, basically. And that how we build that business, acting with integrity, treating people well, being open-minded, that's really crucial. That's really crucial. And that's why, in many ways, BetaShares is really, in many ways, a reflection of who I am, and it's a reflection of who we are as a group of people.
That's probably a good time for us to take a short break and talk about the BetaShares story and how you got there. We'll be back after the break with a word from our sponsors.
Hope you're enjoying this episode of Ticker Talk, sponsored by the National Stock Exchange of Australia, the leading exchange in Australia for startups and scale-ups. Follow us on LinkedIn for market updates, news and events.
Alex, thank you. So BetaShares. So you came to Australia with effectively nothing and created eventually, after a little detour through the law, BetaShares, which is now going gangbusters. 60 billion funds under management, over 100 funds to invest in, 1 million customers now. Extraordinary.
Well over.
One of the things, one of your mantras, and I can't help but think it's partly driven from whence you came, but it's also, I think it rings very true and is clearly appealing to investors in Australia, and that is that your mission is to democratise wealth creation. So what is it? Well, are ETFs, exchange-traded funds, are they like the democracy sausage when it comes to wealth creation in Australia? What is it about ETFs in particular that you think, yes, this is the investment vehicle for me to achieve my democratisation?
Great question. If I was to put it simply, Australian investors should have access to the world of opportunities in order to build wealth, in order to protect wealth, in order to have access, to those wealth creation opportunities. We need to turn our domestic market into a supermarket of global opportunities.
There's your
Historically
Woolworths again.
speaking,
there's your Woolworths experience.
Exactly.
Again.
Yeah, exactly.
The wonder
Can't
of it all.
yes,
yes.
the one. It definitely is a fact that for many decades, and this is going back into last century, Australian investors have always been limited, historically have always been limited by what's available in our own market. We used to only be able to choose really between, our what we call blue chip stocks, Telstra, Woolies, BHP, Rio, the banks, right? And those are great businesses, nothing wrong with them. Some, of course, go through cyclical up and downs, but the world is changing around us so much. And the opportunities as an investor genuinely are global. And we can't be limited by what's listed in Australia. We need to be, as investors, looking at the broad range of opportunities around the world.
Yes.
And if you look at today's world, we talk about AI, today. Where are the leading companies in artificial intelligence and robotics? There are some capable entrepreneurs building businesses in Australia, but the vast majority of action is outside of Australia. We need to have access to that if we believe that's going to transform the future. If you look at the world of cybersecurity, it's a major, major industry. You're looking at companies in the US, you're looking at companies in Israel, you're looking at companies in parts of Asia. We've got some Australian innovators in the world of cybersecurity, but the opportunities are global. So for me, the democratization of investing and access cuts in two different directions. One, this is access to global opportunities, which ETFs deliver in spades, as easily as buying or selling a share on our stock exchange, one of our stock exchanges, in Australia. You can bring that world of opportunities, which I think is really good. And number two is breaking down the minimums, basically. As somebody who came to Australia with nothing, it's always been my belief, and with hindsight, it's a mistaken belief, but it's been the conventional wisdom that you need a lot of money to be an investor. You need to be wealthy to make money. And the reality of living in Australia in a market where our superannuation system makes all of us investors, whether we realize it or not, right? Every working Australian has a superannuation balance. And by virtue of having a superannuation balance, we are all investors. Sadly, not enough of us in Australia yet are engaged with our investments. A lot of people still think about superannuation as a form of tax that gets levied and just money gets taken out of their pay. But ultimately, it is our money. Whether we have money to invest within super, whether we have money to invest outside of super, it is our money. And you don't need to be wealthy to be an investor. You need to be empowered with knowledge, that makes you confident. You need to have technology. And in this day and age, we have technology that can really break down the barriers and make investing easier than ever before. And my personal view is that, like all things in life, we need to focus on good investing. The industry, historically, the investment industry or the financial services industry, and I'm certainly not here to denigrate the banks, but we've been through a period of time in Australia where the trust that Australians have placed, with the bank or with the, with the firm that they were, perhaps had a relationship of trust, that trust has often historically been taken for granted. And that trust sometimes has been misused. And we have gone through a period of rebalancing, basically. But the future has to involve us as Australians be smarter with money, be able to make better financial decisions. We are a country of aspiration. I mean, I'm an immigrant, of course. I came here with this incredible perspective on the opportunity in Australia. But one of the things that makes us really special as a country is that we aspire. Australians still aspire, and I want to keep it that way. We want to aspire to build a better life for ourselves. And that means that we want our hard work and the money that we earn. We are close to full employment, in Australia. We work hard as a nation. We want to make sure that whatever we save gets put to work and works alongside us, basically, to help us achieve whatever goals in life we may have. Whether it's us saving for our children's education, whether it's us saving for our retirement, whether it's us saving for some fun things in life, like special trips overseas or whatever it is. So investing needs to be good. And I think there's just incredible opportunity, basically. So back to your question on democratization of wealth creation, I think it's about the world of opportunity. It's about breaking down the barriers. It's about lowering the cost, and it's about empowering the investors to help people make better investment decisions.
Just talking about luck, you talked about earlier, and also a bit of naivety. The other one maybe is timing. When you started BetaShares, ETFs were nascent in Australia.
Yes.
Was there a grand vision? Was there a pathway? What actually took you into setting up BetaShares when you did? Where did you envisage that the business would end up?
That's a really great question, Max. I can tell you this. If I reflect today, as I reflect today, sitting here with you, on my plan at the time I started BetaShares, I was so naive at the time. And you kind of have to be, in a way.
Well, thank goodness you were.
Yes, that's right. You kind of have to be a little bit ambitious, a little bit crazy, and a little bit naive, basically. Yep. And stubborn, of course, as well. And, maybe a nicer way of saying it, to say resilient, but stubborn. because if I had listened to people who were much better informed than I was at the time, I wouldn't
Yes.
have done anything, basically,
yeah.
for sure. For sure. So, look, I, having spent several years working in financial services after my sort of early stint in law, I had definitely picked up on the fact that the vast majority of Australians invest by buying stocks in Australia, and whatever it is not invested in buying stocks is invested with active managers, basically, traditional active managers. And those, again, on average, have been not great strategies because, active management, statistically speaking, and again, I'm not here to denigrate them, but statistically speaking, 75% of active managers tend to underperform after fees. And I saw the stat and I was like, well, why is 98% of our assets invested with those people if 3/4 of them underperform? And I was like, well, that doesn't make sense. So I started looking into it a little bit closer, and it became very apparent that the incentives in the system, the kickbacks and the commissions, that's what powered the distribution. And I was like, oh, hang on, that does not make sense. That can't continue forever. And we were in the early days of policy reform in Australia where, the market was going to evolve into a fee-for-service market, like going to a doctor. When you go to a doctor, you don't get prescribed a medicine that gives the doctor the biggest kickback. The doctor gives you the medicine that is genuinely in your best interest, basically, best for your health. Well, why does the financial advisor prescribe you an investment, recommend an investment that has got nothing to do with your best interest, but it's got everything to do with how much they're getting back? I mean, I just found at that time, again, there was kind of the naivety. I was looking at it, it's like, what the hell is going on? This is weird. It can't continue forever. And that was my original thought. And
so being an outsider was important in that context, isn't
Absolutely.
it? It gives you license to shake things up because you're not a captive to the existing arrangements.
I was bewildered. Bewildered that we are living, at the time, in Australia where this is the way of the world. What gave me the catalyst is starting to hear noises about regulatory reform because, sometimes, again, as you mentioned in your question, Max, timing, timing is everything. I mean, I could be right, but, I could
wrong for 10 years.
Yes, exactly.
Right, but you've got to wait 10 years.
As you know,
to get
somebody much smarter than I am said a long time ago that the market can stay irrational much longer than one can stay solvent.
Yes.
And
John Maynard Keynes, I think.
Yes.
I never picked you as a Keynesian, though,
look,
Alex.
I'm a
like
student.
you even more now.
I'm a student of history.
True, okay.
So what next for BetaShares?
Technology
Yes.
is a big part of the future of our business. The reason I say that is that technology is now able to empower and support much better decision making.
Sorry to butt in, but I think it's good that you're saying this. Because technology to do what, I think, is the second part of that question. So technology, of course, but to do what?
Everything from internal operations of our business. Of course, we are now living in a world where every interview has the obligatory part on technology and AI and automation. Well, the truth of the matter is that there are so many opportunities to continue bringing efficiencies from automation and pass them by way of savings to the investor, basically, to make investing even more affordable. I mean, that's pretty exciting. We want our best and brightest in BetaShares work on solving exciting, difficult challenges that only humans are able to solve. Anything that's mundane, anything that can be automated, we want automated. Nobody wants to be doing the work that a machine can do, really.
Yeah.
So the part of the one part of the question is internal, basically utilizing technology and automation, and of course artificial intelligence to help us run our business even more efficiently. And we are running a pretty lean and a pretty efficient business. But the customer-facing part of technology is no less exciting. The one area that I'm particularly interested in is behavioral aspects of investing. I mean, we as humans actually make shocking investors, because we have emotion, right? I mean, the concepts of fear and greed are well documented. And, there's no escaping from the fact that, humans have emotions. And I don't know if you saw, recently we had, lines of people, like significant numbers of people lining up at Martin Place.
Yes.
Trying to buy the gold bullion.
Yep.
I mean,
because you were at the counter apparently, and
Yeah,
no one
of
else
course.
could get in. That's what I heard. But well, to quote your favourite economist again, that's the animal spirits.
that's the
isn't it?
animal spirits.
And
We are shocking in being able to contain those animal spirits, but technology can. And I think taking some emotion. I mean, again, it's empirically proven that the average return of a real investor significantly lags the returns of the S&P 500, basically. Significantly lags, because we tend to chase returns, and we are afraid of missing out. And then when things turn bad, we lose sleep at night, and we sell at the worst possible time.
But in that, you see, I've always believed that, nevertheless, you can only smooth things out through technology or other devices to only so far.
Yes.
The world needs turbulence
Yes.
and volatility.
Yes.
In other words, the world is still populated by human beings.
Of course.
And if not for the exuberance, rational or irrational, animal spirits and everything else, there'd be no opportunities for businesses and other things to provide solutions. So
Of course.
it's about finding that balance.
It is
isn't
about finding the balance,
Using
but
technology.
I think the power of compounding as an investor, the power of compounding is not to be underestimated. And to me, it's all about time in the market as opposed to timing the market. I think timing the market is a bit of a mug's game. It is really hard. Of course, if you've got $100 to invest, I've got no problem with somebody putting a core of their portfolio, 75-80% of their portfolio, in diversified long-term portfolio that compounds, and you can have fun with 20%, and you can find the next mining company that's going to discover something, or your next whatever it is, basically your next thematic that's going to transform the world. I mean, that's all fun, but to me, I take investments very seriously, because again, we all invest for a very important reason, whether it's retirement or whatever else that we've discussed, and you do not want to gamble with that, right? You want the laws of mathematics and the laws of physics to really, which are well proven, well tested. You want them to be guiding the outcomes of your investment journey rather than your emotion, basically. So that's what's really important. But I definitely acknowledge and agree with what you're saying, that the world is changing. That change always brings about a difference of opinion about the direction of the world. That difference of opinion is what makes a market. Every time you buy a stock, somebody sells it to you. That's what makes a market. That's the beautiful thing about markets. But as an investor, I think the concept of compounding, that power of compounding, is really, really powerful.
Well, eighth wonder of the world, I think.
Indeed.
Now, before we wrap
That's
up,
Einstein, by the way. That's Einstein.
Yes.
Einstein said that as the eighth wonder.
eighth wonder of the
Yep,
world.
absolutely.
A couple of features of Ticker Talk before we wrap up. One is props. So we've got a Ukrainian flag here for you today.
Thank you.
And we'd love to hear a little bit about the United Ukrainian Appeal and what you've done for Ukraine. And then Matt's going to finish off with some rapid fire questions.
Great. Well, look, I'm as proud an Australian as they come. And I love this country, and I love everything it's done for me, and I love everything it's done for so many immigrants that have crossed, the ocean, basically.
Yep.
Given we're an island, everybody's crossed the ocean in one way, shape, or form, and has provided immense opportunities. At the same time, I am still very connected, and always will be, of course, to my place of birth, which is Ukraine. And as you can imagine, the war in Ukraine and the destruction of the country where I was born has left me on the one hand, with a real heartbreak, it is devastating. There's no other word to put it. But at the same time, it left me and it caused me to find the motivation to actually do something about it rather than just complain and feel sorry for everyone, including myself. And a few years ago, I started with a small handful of like-minded people, a charity called United Ukrainian Appeal. And United Ukrainian Appeal is a registered Australian charity that is focused on providing humanitarian aid to people in Ukraine. And it's been operating now, sadly, for several years. And the work and the task ahead of us is definitely not diminishing. It is growing by the day. But at the same time, I'm proud to be able to make a difference. Sometimes it feels to me that what we do is really a drop in the ocean relative to the task at hand. But I also know that it is much better to do something than to do nothing. So United Ukrainian Appeal today, operates, some significant programs on the ground in Ukraine. We are running a large rehabilitation center just outside of Kiev. It's called the Kiev Institute of Rehabilitation. That facility helps with treatment and ongoing recovery of people who have been injured, wounded, on the front line, both soldiers and innocent civilians. We are operating a number of other projects, and again, I don't want to bore you with too much, but one that's probably worth mentioning is the mental health helpline. I think the one thing that everybody counts when they report statistics of war is the number of casualties, the dead and the wounded, but nobody talks about the mental health trauma, and the mental health trauma is immense.
Yeah.
It's immense in every war.
I know in Israel, the IDF suicide rate has skyrocketed in the last 12 months.
It is shocking. It is really shocking. And so the mental health helpline that we are operating is to our knowledge, the largest and the only actually dedicated mental health helpline. Mental health is not something that Ukraine and the old, sort of Eastern European bloc has really paid much attention to historically. Yes. There is a bit of stoicism and the expectation that you kind of have to be a man basically, and you have to tough it out. But the reality is, of course, that it takes enormous toll, even on the most resilient.
Are you hopeful, Alex? It's been
a
couple of years now.
Matthew,
can you see?
I'm hopeful. Yes. I'm actually very positive. As bizarre as that might sound, I'm very positive about the future of Ukraine. As somebody who's grown up in Ukraine, I can see both the good and the bad. And to me, the bad is the horrible that we're seeing today, is the devastation. But I think the good, because every war eventually ends. Every war eventually ends, and this one will too. The good for me is the resilience and the unity and the genuine optimism for the future and the hope for the future. The fact that the country is mobilized against all odds to withstand what was supposed to be a quick, sort of a quick invasion, basically, and the fact that Ukraine has not been defeated. And the fact that people have come together from all walks of life to stand up for their future gives me a lot of hope for what the future of Ukraine is going to be. Okay. So I am hopeful. I am hopeful, and I am very positive about the future of Ukraine.
That's good. Well, one must be.
What choice do we have?
Yeah.
Yes.
We have to be hopeful.
Let's change the tone. Not to in any way dismiss the importance of what you were saying, but some quick-fire questions then to end. So where is the best city in the world to be an entrepreneur?
Sydney.
Good. I was going to say Bondi is not a city. Sydney. Good. Because you could not have started BetaShares, say, if you had have stayed in Eastern Europe.
No.
So it was something about coming to Australia and being in Sydney, which was the key. Okay.
Yeah, definitely. I just to elaborate, I just think Sydney is not only one of the most beautiful cities in the world. It's Australia has a vibrant industry, financial services, technology, you name it. I think it's phenomenal. You can live in one of the most beautiful places in the world, yet have the world of opportunities.
We just need to get you a better
remind you,
rugby
Matthew,
league team.
these are rapid fire questions.
Sorry, Sydney.
What's the best piece of career advice you've ever received?
Don't be afraid to take a risk.
And finally, what's one habit that makes you more productive?
Put my phone on airplane mode for a couple of hours each day, and take a notebook and write down your thoughts and think. Thinking deeply.
That's not because you're in an airplane.
No.
A few hours every day. But
That's a habit.
That's why you take forever to get back to me on WhatsApp. I feel less personal now. You know?
Alex Vynokur, it's not quite This Is Your Life, but a good chunk of it, and it's been fascinating. Thank you.
Thank you. It's been a real pleasure to be with you.
Thanks, Alex. Good to see you.